NASCAR's ongoing legal battle with 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports has taken another dramatic turn. The racing organization has countersued the two teams, accusing them of violating antitrust laws while suggesting they aren't committed to growing the sport. This latest development has prompted 2311 co-owner Denny Hamlin to respond with what appears to be a pointed message directed at NASCAR's leadership. NASCAR's legal representative, Chris Yates, recently made some bold claims regarding 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports. During a media availability, Yates questioned the team's dedication to NASCAR's growth, stating, "NASCAR wants to work with teams to grow the sport. I don't know if 2311 and Front Row truly want to grow the sport, so I don't know what the path toward a resolution here is at the moment." This statement didn't sit well with Denny Hamlin, who responded in his characteristic style. While promoting his appearance at the NASCAR Experience stage at Phoenix Raceway, Hamlin wrote on social media, "Come see me actively promoting and growing our sport this Saturday." The timing and wording of Hamlin's message make it clear that this was no ordinary promotional post. It appears to be a direct rebuttal to Yates' claim that 2311 Racing isn't interested in growing NASCAR. By emphasizing that he would be actively promoting and growing our sport, Hamlin delivered what many see as a not-so-subtle shot at NASCAR's characterization of his team. To understand the current tension, we need to look at the roots of this dispute. At the center of this legal battle is NASCAR's charter system, which was introduced in 2016 and provides teams with guaranteed race entries and additional revenue. Last year, NASCAR presented teams with a new charter agreement covering the 2025 to 2031 seasons with a strict signing deadline. While 13 of the 15 Cup Series teams agreed to sign the charter, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports rejected the deal. When the two teams refused to sign, NASCAR attempted to revoke their charters. In response, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports filed for a court injunction to protect their charters during the legal dispute. The judge ruled in their favor, allowing both teams to continue competing in 2025 while the case proceeds. Now, NASCAR has filed a countersuit against the two teams, accusing them of violating antitrust laws. NASCAR claims the teams engaged in anti-competitive behavior during negotiations and tried to force NASCAR into accepting their terms. NASCAR's 30-page countersuit contains several serious allegations against 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and specifically names Curtis Polk, who is Michael Jordan's longtime business manager and a co-owner of 2311 Racing. The suit claims that the defendants willfully violated the antitrust laws by orchestrating anti-competitive collective conduct. NASCAR describes the teams as an illegal cartel and alleges that they, led by Polk, agreed to a scheme to pressure NASCAR to accept their collusive terms, including by engaging in media campaigns, interfering with NASCAR's broadcast agreement negotiations, threatening boycotts of NASCAR events, and engaging in a group boycott of a NASCAR team owner council meeting. According to the filing, Polk played an active role in this illegal conspiracy by representing all teams in negotiations, coordinating their conduct, and threatening teams that considered leaving the conspiracy and interfering and negatively affecting NASCAR's attempts to renew its media rights agreements. NASCAR attorney Christopher Yates elaborated on these claims during a media call. Yates said, "Curtis Polk basically orchestrated and threatened a boycott of one of the qualifying races for a major event, and others did not go along with him. He got other teams to boycott a meeting that was required by the charter. When you have a threatened boycott of qualifying races that are covered by media, that's not a good thing for other race teams. Not a good thing when you are trying to collectively grow the sport." The qualifying race in question was reportedly last year's pair of 150-mile duels that set the field for the Daytona 500. NASCAR's countersuit seems to take particular aim at Curtis Polk, who is not only a co-owner of 2311 Racing, but also Michael Jordan's longtime business manager. Yates didn't mince words about Polk, suggesting he doesn't understand NASCAR's business model. "I don't think Mr. Polk really understands the sport. I think he came into it and his view is it should be much more like the NBA or other league sports. But it's not. No motorsport is like that. He's done a lot of things that might work in the NBA or might be okay in the NBA, but just are not appropriate in NASCAR. The filing states that Polk's individual role was at the very center of the plot to use collusive behavior to extract more favorable commercial terms from NASCAR in the charter negotiations. This targeting of Polk is notable, as Michael Jordan has previously stated that he is suing NASCAR on behalf of all the teams so everyone can be on equal footing in terms of benefits as participants in the top motorsports league in the U.S. One key element of this dispute involves the financial terms of the charter agreement, specifically regarding media revenue sharing. NASCAR claims teams are now receiving 49% of media revenues under the new charter agreement, up from in the high 30s in the 2016 agreement. During a media availability, Yates stated, "So, it's increased substantially over time, up to 49% from in the high 30s in the 2016 agreement. I don't know what they think is fair. They have never explained that. I have no idea what they think the appropriate split should be. But the split is more than fair. As I said, it's a substantial increase over time." However, court filings tell a different story about what the teams actually demanded. According to NASCAR's own filing, in June 2022, the TNC led by Polk presented NASCAR its initial proposal and represented that the proposal had been agreed upon by all 16 teams holding 36 charters at the time. These demands reportedly included 1. $720 million annual payment to teams, 2. 33% of all new revenue sources that include team rights, 3. 33% of media increases, 4. Permanent charters, 5. A change of control provision, 6. Additional approval rights on material issues such as the race schedule, moves toward electrification, and new industry initiatives. Another section of the filing contradicts Yates's claim that teams never specified what they wanted. These revisions from the TNC involved numerous provisions in the 2025 charter agreement, including the charter team's demand that NASCAR pay at least 42.7% of all media revenues to teams during the term of the agreement. Most favored nations clauses to prevent NASCAR from negotiating for different charter agreement terms with new teams, and other revisions meant to insulate charter teams from competition. The teams were quick to respond to NASCAR's countersuit. Jeffrey Kessler, the attorney representing 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, released a statement strongly refuting NASCAR's claims. Kessler said, "Today's counterclaim by NASCAR is a meritless distraction and a desperate attempt to shift attention away from its own unlawful, monopolistic actions. NASCAR agreed to the joint negotiations that they now attack. When those joint negotiations failed, they used individual negotiations to impose their charter terms, which most of the teams decided they had no choice but to accept." Kessler emphasized that the team's lawsuit is aimed at improving NASCAR for all stakeholders. "My client's lawsuit has always been about transforming NASCAR into a more competitive and fair sport for the benefit of drivers, fans, sponsors, and teams because of their love of the sport. Every major sport goes through a transition to competition when antitrust claims are asserted, and that moment has come for NASCAR. Today's baseless filing changes nothing. We are confident in the strength of our case and look forward to presenting it at trial." There's an additional wrinkle to this story. While NASCAR accuses 2311 and Front Row of working to pressure other teams into joining their stance, some team owners who signed the charter agreement have suggested they felt pressured by NASCAR to sign. Richard Childress offered an illuminating quote about his experience. "We got our docu-sign that evening, September 6 at 6:37, and we had to sign it by 12 o'clock or we'd lose our charters. I didn't have a choice. We had to sign. I have over 400 employees, OEM contracts, contracts with sponsors, and I have to take care of my team." This raises questions about which side was actually applying pressure during the negotiations. Was it Polk organizing boycotts as NASCAR claims, or was it NASCAR using its position to force teams into signing unfavorable terms? Beyond his initial response to NASCAR's allegations, Hamlin also engaged in a notable exchange with veteran NASCAR journalist Claire Lang. The incident began when Lang posted quotes from Yates's press conference on her social media account. Hamlin replied to her post with a pointed comment, "You should have a fact-checker in the room at all times." This response suggests Hamlin believed there were factual inaccuracies in Yates's statements, particularly regarding the claim that 2311 and Front Row had not made clear what they wanted from NASCAR in terms of revenue sharing.